Hola y bienvenidos a Please Don't Send Me into Outer Space. La intención de este podcast es explorar todo lo que la ciencia ficción y la fantasía nos puede ofrecer película por película. That's the best I'm gonna do. I apologize.
No, you're good.
No, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the listener. Me llamo Joel.
Me llamo Sarah.
I'm Spencer.
It's okay. Spencer doesn't know any Spanish. I didn't expect him to participate.
That's true. I don't know Spanish.
La película de... No, I don't know how to say. Movie this week is Matador, directed by Pedro Almodovar and written by Pedro Almodovar and Jesus Ferrero.
Cameo by
No.
Almodovar.
I know he's got it, but we got to get through the first part before we get to the second part. Starring Assumpta Serna, Nacho Martinez, Antonio Banderas, Eva Cobo. I mean, there's other people in there, but yeah.
Who's the other? I'm not sure if you said her, but there's someone he worked with a few times after this. She's the she worked with a detective. She's in.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
I won't say Cecilia Roth, but that's not Cecilia Roth. She's in his earlier stuff before this. I can't remember who that is.
Carmen Mara.
That's it.
Yeah, I recognize. I mean, like her face is very distinctive, and she's always had that hairstyle. Apparently.
Jaws of Desire.
So, Spencer, what's going on?
So earlier this year, I decided to start watching Almodovar films because I've heard about him sporadically over the years, and kind of no one talks about him that much. Besides, like, The Skin I Live In, and that's kind of only one I ever heard anyone talk about. So, a podcast I really like, Daughters of Darkness, who, that's how I learned about that weird Jalo thing I brought to you guys with the mutant chicken thing.
Oh, yeah.
Death laid an egg, yep.
Yeah, and that same podcast, Daughters of Darkness, did an Almodovar episode on, I think it was on the last three he did with Antonio Banderas. And so that got me watching his movies, and I'm kind of addicted. I kind of have to see all of it. It's like I haven't had this type of experience since Kurosawa, like 5-6 years ago.
At least it's a shorter list this time.
I love Almodovar movies, so I'm excited that we did this one. I am not familiar with this movie before this, but I've seen a bunch of his other ones, and I'm really into the weird, like the flavor of the weird. Was this one... Did you pick this one for a specific reason?
The podcast I liked was covering this, so I was like, well, I guess I should watch it. And so it's the first one I ever saw, and watching it again, I like it even more than the first time. But so far I like his early 80s stuff. That's very like John Watersy and has like a trashy, like kind of campy, like punky feel to it.
Yeah.
Although this is kind of like the first step in like him going in a more serious direction of him, like, 'cause I feel like he's trying to basically saying like, I can make serious movies too, besides like silly comedies, and this is kind of his take on a lot of things, but also it feels like him just declaring himself like, I'm a real director now. because it is notably more professional than the first few, which are like these kind of trashy, like John Waters type movies.
I see. Well, this feels pretty trashy to me, and like I haven't seen the previous movies. In fact, Sarah and I thought we'd seen this movie before, but we were thinking of Talk to Her, which also has Matador stuff in there. But this one,
Atame was like a few years later with Antonio Banderas, and I would say that it's almost like a spiritual sequel to this one.
Which one?
Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down.
Oh, okay. You were saying the Spanish title?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, see, I don't speak Spanish. Obviously, if you listen to the beginning of the podcast, you know I don't speak Spanish.
Well, Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down is a few years later, and it has Antonio Banderas in it. He's like the main character in that. But it's different from this. It's different.
A little bit different. I feel like Tie Me Down was funnier.
Yeah.
And
it's more watchable.
Yeah.
Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, Antonio Banderas looks like Antonio Banderas. Like, I know he does in this movie too, but he hasn't quite grown into his face yet. He's got this kind of boy, like super boyish thing, because obviously he's a lot younger than than he was when he became more popular around here.
Yeah, I like seeing his Spanish movies. Now I'm talking about Banderas, and seeing his American movies. It's like he's kind of better in Spain than he is in America. Like, he gets more interesting things to do when he's working outside of Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, acting wise, sure, but I think that like he's got such appeal as an actor in general. Like, it just a totally stupid movie. That I've seen like 20 times, the Mask of Zorro. Mm-hmm. Like, he is charming as hell in that movie, and it's like he's got it. He knows how to do work with his face. He knows how to say his lines. He's got all this charisma that just boils off the screen, and that's a cheesy action movie.
Yeah,
and I love to see him more vulnerable too, though. I think that I'm used to seeing him be the charismatic, like, Latin lover in American movies or whatever, like the Mask of Zorro and, like, what was the other one? The Original Sin or something?
Nasonex? No, wait, that's it.
Philadelphia.
Spy Kids.
Yeah, exactly. There we go. Yeah. Some of the Robert Rodriguez.
I haven't seen
Desperado.
Philadelphia, isn't he someone's boyfriend?
Yes.
Yeah, Interview with the Vampire.
The Vampire Armand.
We are the only real evil.
We are going to do another one with him in it.
Oh, yeah, eventually. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like to see him do the charismatic thing too, but I think he's almost better when he's a more vulnerable character.
You mean when he's acting like a human being as opposed to a sex symbol?
Like in this movie, in Matador, you almost feel bad for him.
Oh, he's pathetic.
Yeah.
I mean, he does some things that I don't like in the movie, but he's also this, like, incredibly insecure, vulnerable person, too.
Yeah, like, the first one he did with Almodovar, Labyrinth of Passion, he kind of plays a similar character, like this kind of young, naive, unsure person. Mm. And in that one, he's playing a gay Arab. God damn.
Nice.
And, like, he's... Labyrinth Passion is basically like Almodovar's take on a like a Hollywood screwball comedy, and I don't know with that. I got a phone call that I declined. I forgot I was going, but Almodovar likes having him play, like, at this point, like, kind of like these young, naive, insecure type young men.
Hmm. He's become like what we would think would be the cipher, or not the cipher, whatever, the stand-in for the director, like Woody Allen always seems to have.
I was going to say that.
Now.
I was gonna say, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like that David Lynch thing where he said he sees Kyle MacLachlan as like a version of himself in the movies that he does or whatever, or in the like maybe he sees him as like a vehicle for showing himself in the movie.
Sure, yeah. I mean, he's in this movie, so he doesn't. He didn't have to. He could just cast himself, except for he seems, he must be older. I don't know where I'm going with that. Anyway, this movie, one of the other reasons Spencer picked this movie is because it qualifies into the conditions that we have for the podcast, which is that it is a science fiction and or fantasy movie.
That is true.
But just barely.
It counts.
Oh yeah, not like Death Laid an Egg was just barely a science fiction movie. It's like, oh, they got these genetically enhanced chickens. Like, yeah, sure, whatever. It's a fun movie to talk about. This one, it's like, Spencer said that, and I was like, because I thought I'd seen it before, I was like, I don't remember anything like that. And he's like, no, it's there. Trust me. Like, okay. So when Sarah and I were watching it, I kept going like, this is the part. No. This is the part. No. And not until almost
an hour,
the last 20 minutes or so, suddenly Antonio Banderas does actually have, like, no one's really been talking about him. I mean, they've been saying like he has visions and stuff like that. Like his mother is a crazy religious Catholic who thinks he's just full of sin like his father. God rest his soul.
Every time it's like, God rest his soul after she says something bad.
Yeah. And like, all the sin is giving him these visions, but eventually it turns out, no, he actually has some sort of weird psychic ability, which is not, it's not a plot point. Other than when he confesses to a series of murders, he knows exactly how they were done, so... Yeah. People are like, oh, he must have done them. At least at first.
Yeah, and, we should probably get the cat out of the bag.
Which
this
one?
Movie,
Which cat?
Coco.
Okay, Coco.
Yeah, like if you are familiar with Almodovar, he likes to be transgressive and challenging and deal with, like, difficult things, and this deals with, like, masculinity and like rape and other things, and like Banderas does try to rape someone, but it's turned on its head in a way that only Almodovar could, like, kind of turn something that ugly into something. It's complicated how he does it, but he somehow makes it like more tolerable than if I think someone else did. Like, I think. Since this, I could be full of shit, but like, since he is openly gay, like maybe his way of thinking of like masculinity and like taking a woman is more is a different version of it, and like it's him, because I feel like part of this was making fun of masculinity to an extent.
Oh yeah,
I don't know
the
what you're talking about.
machoism. I think it is kind of.
No, everybody wants to be just like that Matador guy. Come on.
Yeah, and like it felt like Taxi Driver kind of, or like you have this like classic like alpha male, and I feel and like where Taxi Driver is just like the alpha male. This, he has a class where he's teaching other men and a few women, but mostly men, and so like having the protege there just like really points out like how ugly and fucked up like masculinity and macho, like being macho, can get. Where like I feel like how certain people misread Taxi Driver and Fight Club and kind of miss the point, where this having like a younger protege or student there, it really emphasizes like, oh no, this type of behavior is not a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I hadn't noticed the Taxi Driver thing, but I can see that now. I mean, it goes a completely different direction at the end than Taxi Driver does, but it definitely has that feeling of like this you're looking at it through the lens of a strange, like, character. And you're not seeing things in your reality. It's like in that character's reality.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, going on to the masculinity side of things, like, it also deals with, like sexual identity to an extent where, like, the Antonio Banderas character, Angel, or Angel? What were they saying?
Angel.
Just say Angel.
Angel.
Yeah.
It is Angel, but yeah.
There's throughout the movie, people keep asking, "Is he gay?"
Yeah.
Which I kind of feel like a joke to at a certain point. And then I think that the Matador, Diego, says, like, "Well, he's complicated," and they accept it, like, "Huh, I guess he's not straight, not gay. He's just kind of complicated," and they kind of accept it. And I just like that, like, it's dropped from there. It never really comes up again.
I feel like they by bringing that into the thing, and by the way he acts, and with his overbearing mother on top of everything else, and the way he doesn't, he's peeping on women and stuff like that. They're trying to make a Norman Bates out of this guy.
Oh yeah,
but
I wrote on Psycho reference, like when they got to the mom.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Yes.
Because she's facing away from during that one scene.
No, because he has this weird, messed up relationship where she's like, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. There is a scene where she's like facing away and talking to somebody, and then she turns around, but she's not a skeleton face. So I didn't put that together when we were watching it, but.
That would have been a funny twist if she was never alive and he was just like talking to his mom.
And then it would be partially related to Volver, with the
oh yeah.
Is she a ghost? I don't know. We'll find out.
I swear, I smelled my mom.
So to go back to the rape thing you were talking about, like the movie has an attempted rape. So if that is a trigger, totally understandable. Don't watch it.
It appears to be a real life like rape. They kind of make your expectations different for that too.
Well, yeah, we get the full build up, the whole pulling a woman there, and they try to joke it up that he's incompetent because he doesn't have a knife. He has a Swiss Army knife. So when he first tries to threaten the girl, who probably could easily overpower him, first he takes out the cork screw thing, like and then he can't find the knife, so he just settles on a saw. And then then the clothes removal thing, then him. It seems like he's about to start thrusting. It's like pouring rain, so it's terrible. But apparently he does not complete the action.
Well, he completes his action.
Well, yes, he ejaculates very quickly.
And then he apologizes immediately afterwards.
Yeah. And, like, you were saying that somehow Almodovar makes the rape thing easier to take, basically. Like, I kind of see what you're saying. Is like The Skin I Live In has a pretty
horrible
rape scene, but the way it's played out, they're like having a conversation while it's happening, and it's like, I hate it. Like I don't want to see that ever, but there's something about the movie that makes it tolerable in a weird way.
What, The Skin I Live In or this one?
Yeah, in The Skin I Live In. Like, it's gross and it's terrible, and that character gets what he deserves, luckily. But
I think in that situation, it's like an important part of the story almost too.
Sure, yeah.
This part is an important part of the story as well.
It's just
ridiculous.
I mean, it's played for comedy, which is weird.
Yeah, should we try to? Well, I mean, like in his early movies, like he plays rape for comedy in like a kind of strange way. But John Waters does that in at least Pink Flamingos. Well, I guess Female Trouble or Divine himself with like do you have Divine and Dragon Divine as a truck driver, and they have and then that same day, Divine gives birth to a baby.
Sexy.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's a gross scene, and you see his underwear with a big old stain. And since it's John Waters, I assume that was real in his actual
Stop
underwear.
it, you're arousing me too much.
Yeah.
But enough about that. But like, Almodovar does deal with like, I mean, Tie Me Down, like on paper is a very messed up movie.
Oh
But
yeah,
also-
no, that's yeah. Mm-mm.
but it's also like kind of tolerable, and like you can it is watchable and not like an ugly, like somehow he just makes like these very ugly things kind of tolerable and like kind of humorous in a bizarre way. And like I just watching his movies, I just don't understand how he can pull this off. Like it makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. It's like magic or something. He can somehow make something that's horrible be like this thing that you can get past. And sometimes it even ends up being like something that makes these characters like love each other more. And like it's kind of like there's some evolution that happens through like a traumatic experience or something.
There's a soap opera nature to his movies that makes everything feel like a highlighted fantasy in the first place. Like the conversations people are having typically are not a two-way conversation. It's typically somebody monologuing for a long time and then somebody monologues back to them. And like I feel like the unreality helps with that. Like there's the things they're saying most of the time are silly. Sometimes they're poignant, but like it doesn't feel like real life for the most part.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just the way it is in Spain. I don't know.
Should we try to like quickly summarize what the plot is? Because I don't know where to begin with like a very quick summary of.
Yeah, I'll tell you what this thing is.
Okay.
So Diego Montes, played by Nacho Martinez, is a retired matador. He sustained a goring that he was not able to recover from. Now he's a teacher. One of his students is Angel, aka Antonio Banderas, and Antonio Banderas is a goofy kid, but he feels like he has something to prove, I guess, is the situation. So when he goes out and he attempts to rape his neighbor,
Who is Diego's girlfriend?
Who is his girlfriend?
who is the Matador's girlfriend, he immediately goes to the police station and confesses, or tries to confess to it. Meanwhile, while this is going on, there is another character named Maria who, when we first see her, is murdering a man or mid-sex, very, very Black Widow style. And she later shows up as a lawyer for Angel, because while Angel's at the police station, he confesses to a series of murders. Angel seems to already know that the Matador is the one who was responsible, spoiler for that part, for the murder of a couple of young ladies that used to be in the class. But he also confesses to the murders that Maria has been doing of these men who have had their necks punctured very specifically. And so the story is kind of Maria and Diego dancing around each other. They both are fascinated by death, and they become closer as they are challenging each other. They both kind of figure out each other's secret, while Angel is being treated as
the fall guy. Yeah, he's like a patsy for their crimes.
right. But he's got a lot of people sympathetic to him, also.
And he volunteers to be the fall guy.
Right.
Yeah.
And in the end, when everything comes to a head, they figure out that the Matador and the lawyer are both the ones who actually did the murders. Angel's because Angel faints at the sight of blood. So therefore, there's no way he could have done the murders.
Because like after his attempted rape, Eva slips, and then she has a cut on her face, and he immediately passes out.
Right. And later, while he's at the ward, hospital, whatever, for the prison, they bring in a patient who's got blood on him, and he faints, and everyone sees that. So, couldn't have been him. And the Matador and Lauria character have one final ecstasy moment of sexual activity, and they kill themselves in front of each other because, oh, I want to see your death, and I want to see your death, and oh, yeah, that's real good. Sexy. Oh, and Angel has psychic powers, so he leads the police to them, but not in time to save them.
Yeah.
And there's an eclipse.
Yeah. Don't forget the eclipse.
Next week will be... don't forget the eclipse.
It's a lot to unpack.
Yeah. And I think it has issues in it the same way that, like Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down does. Like, when you hear about that as an idea for a movie, it sounds terrible. It sounds horrible. But there's some way that he turns it around again. Like, in Almodovar movies can have these horrible setups, and then they turn into these kind of humorous, almost like, what's the word? Like, it's almost like a farce or something. It's almost like it's satire or like a telenovela, like a soap opera.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Like
with lots of butts and breasts and
nudity and
pubic hair, not quite penis.
People of all different.
In Labyrinth of Passion, you see a penis.
Oh, okay.
You almost see Antonio's penis, but not quite.
I was waiting for some nacho dick in there, and it just didn't happen. Unfortunately. This movie has an NC-17, I assume because of the sexual content, and I assume it's specifically because we see Nacho going down on a Sumpta at one point, and it's her bare crotch. We're not seeing them, in between the legs, but he, his head floats there. It's like the Reanimator.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but the movie opens in a very graphic, bizarre way of the character is Diego, masturbating to horror movies.
Yeah, that's like, a couple of clips, I was trying to find it. It was like Blood and Black Lace and,
I know
some Spanish language movie.
There's a Jess Franco movie in there. I know that. I can't remember which one. I think it might be something like Blood Moon or Bloody Moon.
Yeah,
and
something like that.
There is another movie that I think might be a Jean Roland movie, but I know for a fact one of them is Jess Franco.
He's just intently masturbating, and it's not like he's masturbating to a sexy scene in the movie. He's specifically women getting murdered.
He always has like creep jobs in the stories that he tells. There's like in Broken Embraces, there's like the creepy photographer that's like watching other people, and in The Skin I Live In, there's like, there's a bunch of different, there's like a voyeur thing too, because like you see into other people's rooms or in other people's houses, and we watched another one that was really weird with what was that one? Like the soccer player or something that becomes disabled?
Wait, what are you talking about?
Didn't we watch one with
an Almodovar movie?
Yeah.
We've seen Live Flesh.
Maybe that was the one with
Live Flesh, Broken Embraces. I was trying to remember what happens in Live Flesh, but
That's the one with Javier Bardem. He's he becomes like wheelchair bound. And I think he's like maybe bisexual. I don't know.
I mean, it's an Almodovar.
Yeah,
movie.
everybody's a little bit. Yeah, they have a little bit of like. I love that though. Like, seriously, I think he's one of my favorite filmmakers because he's not afraid to do like weird things. And I think that like the cinematography is always really interesting and colorful, and costuming and all of that is always over the top. And
like there's a clear love of movies because there's always nods to like classic Hollywood or like classic movies. Because
fashion too, it seems to really like fashion.
Oh,
yeah.
And in this movie, in Matador, at one point, Diego is following Maria to a theater. Well, she tries to escape into a theater, and they're watching Duel in the Sun, a King Theodore movie from the mid-40s. And
I mean, that could have been a movie. That could have been his movie, based on what was happening in it.
Yeah.
Like,
somebody shooting somebody.
I don't know what the context
sorry.
was. Yeah, shoots the guy, and then later she's like, oh, I love you. Like, wait, didn't this guy you shot? What's going on?
Yeah, and like there's like kind of a psycho vibe to it, and there's I think in the beginning when Angel's talking to Diego, and Diego asks him, "Have you ever been with a woman?" And shortly after that, like they go like in his mansion. He's Angel's like, "Is this your girlfriend?" She's like, "No, it's Ava Gardner. Don't you watch movies?"
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
But his girlfriend's name is Ava.
Oh my gosh.
See? Not that far-fetched.
No. But there's a clear love of movies, and like he will throw little references here and there.
Yeah, and I love that the characters have all of these strange like complexities to them. Like, in a way, they seem like somebody you could talk to in real life, but in another way, they seem like they theatrical and they can't, like, they couldn't exist in the real world.
I don't want to talk to any of these people.
No one? Not even the detective?
Maybe the detective. Only the detective. I don't want to talk to the Matador. Don't want to talk to the lawyer. Don't want to talk to the Matador's girlfriend, or especially her mother. Hell no.
I love her mom. She's hilarious.
Her mom.
Her mom is like both like she's like real supportive and like protective of her daughter, but she's also slut shaming of her daughter, and it's just this really complex, weird thing. And she will not back down to anyone.
See, that, and that I feel like that leans into a weird, like her character specifically leans into a weird culture thing where it's like, oh yeah, she's been raped before a couple of times, like of course she's been raped or whatever, and it's like, oh, it's perfectly normal. You get over it, like.
And then the police, when he goes to confess that he did it, the lady cop is like, oh, she should be so lucky. Like, are you sure? Because this guy's attractive. Are you sure she didn't want you to? Like, it's just very weird. And somebody says, I think her mom says, you dress so slutty or something like that.
Yeah, but also during that scene, her mom is the one like when Eva is telling her story, and their mom is like, he ejaculated, and she says he ejaculated.
Oh God, it's terrible. It's so terrible, but somehow he makes it like silly, and And his character feels so bad about it. His character is, like, so guilty. It's obvious, like, his whole life has been, like, under this religion and, like, oppression, and he's super, like, what's the word? Repressed. And
it's Catholic guilt. It's like he's just like Catholic guilt personified, and like I don't know if you guys know too much about like Spain at this point, but like Spain was slowly turning away from like the Franco period when it was like a fascist country. Well, they kind of tried to not to be a fascist country, but they were still a fascist country. But then they had like ties to the Catholic Church, and like with the parents in this, it feels like they are a holdover of that old like Francisco Franco like Catholic repression, and then like you have the two young characters who are the new generation, like in particular Angel, like trying to adjust to like this new society to an extent, but his mother's so psychotically Catholic that he can't really fully adjust to society.
Right.
I mean, both of those characters with the controlling mothers are both drawn specifically to Diego. You know, and Angel is literally trying to be, imitate him and become him. Like he's doing the Matador training, even though he doesn't seem to have any interest in it. And of course, when he gets challenged on his, masculinity, on his sexuality, he doesn't pick some random woman. He goes immediately to the Matador's girlfriend, like
his girlfriend.
Like I'll show him. I'll do exactly what he did. And for Eva, like her whole life revolves around getting any sort of affection from Diego. There's the scene where they're lying in bed together, and they're both naked. And he's like, okay, just lie still like you're a corpse.
Play dead.
Like, that's the only way he's able, and she doesn't. There's no argument from her. She'll give him whatever she wants. Or she'll give him, whatever. Yeah. So they're still trying to grab onto this masculine represented, thing, because Diego is a highly respected person. Having been a Matador and having a very nice house and obviously money and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
have you guys ever seen a bullfight?
I don't like it at all. I don't like the idea of it. I mean, I love animals, and I think it's really mean.
It's unnecessary.
I have seen some footage of bullfights in one occasion or another. I don't know if they've all been in movies or if some of them have been actual footage of bullfights, but I've seen, like, several times I've seen footage of bullfights. Didn't we watch something about bullfighting once?
You mean specifically about bullfighting?
Yeah, was there a movie about bullfighting that we watched?
Yeah, it's called Matador.
My mom has been to Spain before, and she went to see a bullfight, and she said it was real fun, exciting, but she didn't know how they ended, and she said it was fun until the last part. And my grandpa also has been to Spain, and he said the same thing. He's like, "Oh yeah, it's real exciting, but I didn't know they killed the bull at the end."
I mean, what do they think they do? They're just teasing it?
I don't know.
In a rodeo, you let an animal go crazy like that, and then you pin them up again, and then they're going to have to do it again later.
Right.
So, I think, American perspective of what might happen, because you don't see it everywhere, is that it might happen again for the same bull, because the Matador has more matches. But, yeah, it seems really sad to me that they kind of taunt this bull unless this guy gets gored. It's I don't blame a bull for fighting back in that situation.
The only time I enjoy a bullfight is when a human gets gored, because they get what they deserve.
Yeah, exactly. And like the whole analogy of like the fighting the bull comes into play, where like the whole opening after he finishes masturbating to horror movies, he's giving the lesson and everything about. He's like, you have to attract the bull, you have to tease the bull, and you get these cuts to an unknown serial killer at the time, who is attracting these men, and it's just very and she kills a man, like how you kill a bull. And then when Angel is talking to Diego about like, about women, and he's like, well, I have to treat a woman like a bull. So there's this whole like treating people like a piece of meat aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they use the metaphor of like dancing around the ring with the bull with like, they definitely do that between the two, the Matador and like the super fan of the Matador. You find out in the story that she's like been to his matches and been collecting like memorabilia and belongings of his, and yeah, I think bullfighting is mean. That's my opinion, but it's for sport.
I was kind of disappointed by that particular twist, that she was like obsessed with Diego, and had been for a long time, because I just kind of like the idea that she was just a kind of a taunting, challenging, badass murderer,
A killer.
also, that used sex for and death as her way to please herself or whatever. It's like, no, I'm actually totally crazy, and I've just been everyone's trying to imitate Diego. There you go. Once again, she's also trying to do it.
I was kind of more interested in what's his name's character in
The detective?
Antonio Banderas, the detective as well. They could have followed the detective, and I would have liked to see what would happen. And they could have had Antonio Banderas be more of the central character. But I think I was telling Joel I like this movie, but I had some issues with like the ending. I think like it was still very imaginative, but I think like I was a little disappointed by the suicide ending or whatever, because it felt like it had all this momentum. But I also like that he isn't afraid to do something like a twist at the end or something, or a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, it was hinting at it, because they're both obsessed with death, and they have, like, with Maria, she kills men at the moment they climax when she's with them. Because, like, when a detective is, like, looking at all the corpse photos, he's like, I've never seen
a smile on their face.
He's like, I've never seen a dead man look so happy. And, like, similar thing with Diego, with like his whole, I guess he wants to be a necrophiliac to an extent. You never see him do that, but it's kind of presumed he has done that.
Yeah, the presentation of how he may have murdered is not really going, because they said they haven't found any of the bodies there, but it seems like he drowned one of them, and I don't know about the other. It's like inspired by the movies or what?
Yeah, but like when he tells Eva to play dead, it's like, oh, I guess he's a necrophiliac too. I don't know.
He's into it.
He's just weird.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that happens, I'm like, I don't want to really know about that, but I also really like that Almodovar has these ideas, and he's like not afraid to hang weird and make something that maybe nobody else would think of. Like, I think that's super cool. I think that the visions that Antonio Banderas' character has...
Oh, visions.
The visions. I think that they are kind of surreal. But it's the quality, it's the cinematic quality that he is using with his sets and his costumes and like lighting and stuff. It makes it seem like it's not real. It's kind of funny because I watched this yesterday and I watched Rosemary's Baby today. There's this like weird surreal thing where it's like, is it a dream? There's these weird images, like I don't know. But I think that it's cool that they're just like, no, this character actually is psychic. And the reason he knows everything is because he's seen it all, like he was there.
And he feels it because during his confession, he's like, "Oh yeah, the man tried to penetrate me," and he's just like describing his sex and then stabbing him in the back of the neck, which again leads to the question of his sexuality. Like way early on to the detective. Although the detective is the one person who the whole time is like, who are these people? He never outright says it, but you can tell by his actions. He's like, man, these people are exhausting to be around.
Exactly.
And it's like this gang of weirdos.
Like I don't want to hang out with any. The detective's just getting this glimpse of this. Like, what is? You know what? I got work to do. Forget it.
But I like how Antonio Banderas' character in this movie does something super crazy. Like I don't like that he tries to rape this girl, but I like that right afterwards he faints because it's like immediately they're like, this guy is weak, and then. It's funny because in Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down, a similar thing happens where, like, he ties up this girl and he's like, I'm gonna make you mine. You're going to be with me. We're in love. And she says something mean to him, and there's this part where he just, like, turns around and cries, like, breaks down and cries. She's like, let me go. Like, I don't want to be here. And he's like, heartbroken in the corner. I just think it's super funny that there's like...
How could she reject him like that?
I
know. All he did was kidnap her and tie her up. Jeez.
I just like how he plays with like people's personalities when he makes these characters up. And I think that's why it reminded me of that one. Yeah, also,
I mean, he's playing a mental case.
Similarities,
that's not a PC term. I apologize, but he's unstable.
Issues.
Yeah, and Julia, the character played by Carmen, is that her name?
Carmen Mara.
Yeah, when she comes in and she has like this weird like incesty mother-son thing with him.
I'm not sure what is her job.
Seriously.
Like, is she a nurse?
She's like kind of playing with the idea of being his like aide or like psychic companion or I don't know, like his nurse.
She's also slipping in a few smooches on occasion.
She just wants to be with him.
Geez, that reminds me. Before I forget. Go back to the terrible subject of rape. Mm-hmm. Antonio Banderas goes to the police station, and there's a lady police officer at the counter, and he says, "I'd like to report a rape."
I said that, yeah.
Yeah, and you said that part?
Yeah, that she should be. Are you sure? Like, lucky her to be.
Yeah, like,
taken by you.
She says, "I should be so lucky."
Oh, yeah, that's what she says.
Like, I wish somebody as attractive as you would rape me. Like, holy crap, come on.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I think that's part of the satire of him just taking things.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I hope so.
To a level. to 11.
It kind of makes me want to go to Spain and see what people talk like to each other. I think it's just his vision, like his way of seeing the world. But it's hilarious.
I have a little insight on, because I was dating a girl that spent 6 months in Spain on
wait, you're saying this in front of Sarah?
Yes. It was in high school. So she was for a Spanish language thing, and basically every day people would just, like, in the street hit on her. And, like, old men, young men, every man was like, I gotta take my chance, there's a girl. Oh, she doesn't speak Spanish. Even better. Like, it was this like attitude of like, hey, you don't get, everyone there is doing the mystery method. I think is the thing is.
I've heard a lot of stuff about going to Italy too. I think there are some European cultures that are like super like macho guys, and it's like everywhere you go, someone is like yelling at you or. My sister.
Italy probably, because I've seen some Marcello Mastroianni movies. I imagine, I imagine men were like, "Oh, I can be like Mastroianni." He's like, "No, you're not nearly as handsome as Marcello. No one is."
Yeah, I feel like even my sister had to like get out. Like, she was living in Peru for a while, and she was actually really enjoying it, but there were people, like, constantly hitting on her, and I mean, that wouldn't be a problem, except for, like, her taxi driver, like, who was an old man, was like, I love you, I want to marry you, like... And
the guy's married.
He was like an old man who was married,
has kids, probably grandkids.
She started to feel like it wasn't safe, and yeah, eventually it was just like constant like cat calls and stuff. She was just like, "Get me out of here!"
Like the women who live there are so browbeaten that it's like, oh, it's perfectly normal. Like, I don't know what your big problem is.
I don't get it. Like, are there cultures? This is a tangent. Are there cultures where girls are like, yeah, I like that?
I also don't want to seem insensitive.
Yeah.
To others.
Yeah.
Because we honestly don't.
I don't know the dynamics. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, don't kidnap somebody or try to rape them.
I mean, Spencer, you catcall at ladies all the time. So, I mean, is this how much of a positive response are you getting?
Well, I remember learning from King of the Hill, Boomhauer's method is try every woman, because someone has to say yes eventually.
Numbers game.
Yeah, it's a numbers game.
Yeah, there's an episode where Hank has Bob hang out with Boomhauer to learn how to talk to girls.
Oh.
Anyway,
the character that doesn't talk.
I mean, Boomhauer, he got around.
Sure.
And there's that one episode where Brad Pitt voiced his brother.
Oh, makes sense.
But going back to the Julia character, at one point she kisses Angel awake, and it's like this really sensual, like romantic kiss. And it's like, what is going on here? Does she want to him? What is this?
She did.
Yeah, she did. I think
she's fallen in love with him.
She was just like, "This is my guy."
It's like he's an innocent, gentle soul.
But she treats him like he's her child. It's this really creepy.
He's an innocent, gentle soul who's an invalid. She needs to take care. Come on.
I don't get it. But I think the whole time I was watching it, I was expecting the girl that he had the encounter with in the beginning was gonna fall in love with him. And maybe that's because of how the story goes in Tie Me Up, Tie Me Down. But I think that I kept thinking, okay, she's gonna fall for him instead, and she never does. The young woman who was the girlfriend of the Matador, retired Matador, she just stays obsessed with that guy. She's just really hung up on him and in love with him.
And that's the thing, yeah.
And it's horrible because he obviously doesn't give a crap about her.
Also, Diego eventually does have some sort of emotion because he's pushing her away before he murders her. Like, he's like, no, I want you to go away. We've gone too far as it is already. Like, there's no other way to go except for what I might do. You know?
Yeah, that's his pattern. Like, he'll target younger women, fall in love, and then eventually kill them. And I guess have sex with the body, maybe?
And then beat off while watching a video,
Yeah.
I thought there was going to be a twist that he had filmed killing the other women and that was going to be the evidence that they found that would, like...
Was there any real evidence, or was it just they believe Angel's
Angel... I mean, the bodies are buried in Diego's yard.
Eventually, they find. I'm sure when they find the corpses, they find the hairpins, and the hairpins are like the murder weapons, or some of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the corpses in his yard, where he. I also, for a minute, thought they were going to say the gardener killed those girls.
Oh, that old man?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were talking about...
He's a murderer.
Something about the weekends or something.
And like
they kept bringing up those freaking mushrooms. I was like, who's going to get poisoned?
Yeah, I thought they were dropping that on us like they did in freaking...
Hannibal.
No, I'm not going to spoil it.
Oh, okay.
But in another movie, they introduced poisonous mushrooms.
Mm-hmm. The Rocketeer.
Although, I guess it's a misdirect, but it's also where the bodies are buried, where the mushrooms are.
That's what the mushrooms are about. Like, oh, there's such a good thing. Oh, there's dead bodies.
And like, when they're uncovering the bodies, like, it takes, like, a few minutes until the detective's like, how about you guys, Dick, you have shovels.
Right.
Using those picks at first, I'm like, oh man, they're just gonna pick through a skull or something like that.
And the whole time,
I watch enough stupid TV shows to know that the CSI people are gonna be pissed.
And then, like, Angel is looking away the whole time, and I think the detective, that's when he notices, he's like, this guy can't be the killer.
Yeah.
I think he gives him the benefit of the doubt from the very first time. Like, he walks in and says he raped somebody or whatever. Like, he immediately is like, okay, well, let's get all the particulars here. Like, and then she comes in and is like, no, I don't want to bother with this. I don't want to press charges. And with a ridiculous mom.
Yeah.
But I think the detective is, like, intrigued by Angel the whole time.
And Angel is hanging out there the whole time, and he's like, want to see a picture of a dead body?
Yeah. It's like, I gotta talk to you a little bit more. Like,
Things are a little bit different in Europe or something.
Like, you've been arrested
Let's just
for
have a chat.
not
Let me
paying
get
your
you a
speeding
coffee.
tickets.
That's another
Look at this picture of this dead body. What the hell?
Yeah, and that's when he says, like, oh yeah, he tried to penetrate me in, like, one of his graphic detail.
Yeah. No, it was a sound arrest. I mean, he knew details, but...
Yeah.
So, I don't know if there's any... is there anything else you guys want to talk about in particular?
I guess some silly moments and some, when, towards the end, when Eva is, wants to get, her man back, and she's wearing, like, a lot of, like white, like, foundation or something, and everyone's like, you look dead. And she's like, yeah, that's the point.
Yep.
And,
I know what he wants.
what is it? And, there's the cameo of Almodovar in the fashion show.
Yeah.
That's real good.
And, like, you see all the models, getting ready, and one of them is like, I think snorting coke or something. He's like, you do heroin in the bathroom.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she was...
I told you not to do that around the...
Like, her and her friend were like, yeah, we're shooting up. They weren't doing coke.
I forgot, but, like, he does say, do heroin in the bathroom.
And then she just randomly throws up on that girl.
Oh, yeah. I wasn't looking at that second. It was like, Sarah was like, "Ah." I was like, I
It's like she just spit out pudding or something on her lap.
Yeah. Almodovar has, in my opinion, a unique look. Like, as soon as he was on screen, I was like, is that the director? Sarah, of course, she's much faster on the quick draw recognizing thing. She was like, oh, that's him. It's like...
Yeah, he is...
Like, I'm not hearing her. I was, like, puzzling it out. Like, I'm going to solve this mystery. Now, Sarah's already solved it, Joel. No, what's the answer? What's the secret?
In early movies, he always plays like a someone like direct like always playing like the director of a fashion show or like a movie, or he's playing like a weird photographer. In his first movie, like Peppy Bohm and something, forgot the other name. He's playing like this like a porn photographer who's doing like a bondage shoot. Mm-hmm. But he's recognizable because once you see the hair, you're like, oh, that's clearly him.
Yeah.
I see that hair and I'm like, that's him.
I was trying to remember other things that like his directing style reminded me of, and I was thinking he's like a more sexualized Juzo Atami.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I keep thinking of
Taxing Woman?
That one and Tampopo, because of like the vignettes of like sexuality going on there, and like the conversations like somehow feel unrelated, but they are all related to what's going on.
Oh yeah,
and the sense of, like, especially in A Taxing Woman, the sense of humor is kind of a rapid pace, like this is just the way life is kind of thing that his movies all seem to have.
Yeah. And like Itami was critical of Japanese culture, and that's kind of why Itami's movies got less universal as they went on, because like he got too specifically Japanese, where like Almodovar somehow managed to like be very Spanish but also not be too specifically Spanish, so that like he still has like a big international audience.
Yeah.
But also, there's a shot of Angel in the like a mental asylum, and he's in a straitjacket, and it looks like a shot that Jonathan Demme copied for Silence of the Lambs.
Probably.
And I think he's wearing like a mask too, but like it looks very much like how Hannibal Lecter is framed in that movie.
Yeah.
Not so much Manhunter, because Manhunter he's in what, 10 minutes of the whole movie?
He's wearing pajamas in a thing.
Yeah.
Brian Cox.
Yeah. Although, for being on, if I can have a hot take, I prefer Manhunter over Silence.
I mean, I like them both equally for different reasons.
I'm more familiar with Silence of the Lambs. I think I don't even know if I've seen Manhunter. Which one's that?
It's the same movie as
Red
Dragon, but it's directed by
Michael Mann.
Michael Mann, yeah.
Who's in it?
That you would know. Joan, what's her name?
Joan Cusack?
No, not Joan Cusack.
I know what you're talking about. She plays a blind woman.
Yeah.
Tom Noonan is a serial killer.
Huh.
No, you
Yeah, I
haven't seen
definitely haven't seen it.
Yeah, William Peterson.
Yeah, I don't recognize
Dennis
this.
Farina's in it. Joan Allen, that's who I'm thinking. Tom Noonan, Stephen Lang. Stephen Lang's
Joan
in this
Allen's
one,
in
and then I'm
Chris Elliott.
Oh yeah, Chris Elliott.
Yeah, I forgot Chris Elliott. Yeah.
I always forget he's in that.
Chris Elliott's in it.
It's just some random people.
Just
huh?
as a person I recognize the name of. I'm like, wait a minute.
And Frankie Faison.
I forgot where he is in that.
He's in all of them. That's weird. I mean, Silence, Hannibal, and Manhunter. Wow. And Red Dragon.
Yeah,
Anyways,
that came out the same year. But what else was it? I don't know. Like my journey through Almodovar is still going. I'm at I've seen, I think, all but one or two of his 80s work. Now I'm moving on to the 90s, and the next one up is High Heels. One that I hear is not as good as the rest, but I don't know. I'm still gonna watch it.
I'll probably eventually see all of them too, but I haven't seen as many as I want to yet. I've seen a few of them, and like I think the first one we might have was the first one we ever saw. Talk to Her. I think we were like watching some movies at my parents' house one time, and they had like a movie channel, and we were like, "What in the world is this?"
I think it was Talk to Her, and then Voltaire.
And then we saw Voltaire.
We saw Broken Embraces.
And Broken Embraces. I was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
And then I got both of those. Yeah.
Amazon Prime and the Google Play, I think, have basically every movie he did, including like the early Spanish ones, like the kind of trashy punk ones that were kind of hard to see for a long time in this part of the world.
Cool. Yeah, we picked some after we started watching them, just kind of almost at random.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting going from the beginning to, I did the 80s in general, but like going from the 80s to the 90s to like to time up, time down, it's like, okay, there's a real progression going on here.
Yeah, there is. And I'm kind of interested to see what the new one's going to be like after The Skin I Live In.
Pain and Glory?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was projected to win Cannes, or Con, however you say it. But it kind of didn't make too big of a splash. But I'm still interested.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what he does with it.
I see 2 people. Okay, anyways. Yeah. I like his movies a lot. And I like this one. I don't know if I'll watch. I probably will watch it again.
Yeah, I probably
it's pretty
will
trashy.
too. It's funny because because yesterday I was like, I have some problems with I don't know, with something about the end of this movie.
I think you were kind of like, I don't know if I like this movie, but
I did. Yeah. No, I did like it, but I was like, I think that it could have been a little better or something.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I want to like everything he does just because he dares to be so strange and have his own style with it.
Yeah, he managed to be like transgressive and dark and weird, but it's kind of acceptable.
Yeah,
like he's not shunned by like the major critics, like how some directors can kind of fall into that trap of like, I can't think of anyone offhand right now, but in general, like you don't see that many like big name directors kind of make a career out of doing like these weird melodramas for like sex and like in this other crazy
yeah. I really like that he has characters that are like androgynous or maybe trans or like gay characters, and I like that he wasn't afraid to do that even a long time ago. And
I think he's been out for a long time though.
Yeah, I think he has been too. And I think that probably his life is also, part of the many influences he has. We were talking yesterday and Joel was like, I wonder who his influences are.
Yeah. And
it is really interesting to think about because he has such a cocktail of like different cool things that he puts in.
I mean, with this movie specifically referencing some, giallo style stuff, or Chalo rather, or however you're supposed to say it. Like, I want to know what he's into.
You should look at the Criterion DVD of it. I may have it.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia right now. I've kind of been browsing it, like just skimming it to see where it says influences. And it does say John Waters for sure. And it says some stylistic appropriations of Hitchcock, which I was talking about yesterday. But it's just makes you want to dig in more and figure out how in the world this reality came to be.
Well, I know some of it is Franco died And then the censorship laws got a lot more looser, and then suddenly there was this huge outburst of these young directors who are like challenging the Catholic Church and making movies with gay people and trans characters and having like violence and sex in movies. And he kind of was part of like having like gay characters and having movies be more sexual post Franco, because Franco was a
oppressive
and had ties to the Catholic Church and
well, I've seen Pan's Labyrinth. I know what happened.
Yeah. Which is crazy that he was like, he's a dictator from like the 30s to the 70s. And I feel like a lot of Americans kind of don't realize Spain was basically like a fascist country for almost like 50 years.
Yeah. No, it's not. I feel like they had this cultural richness in Spain that I would almost say that's a similar thing to Mexico. That, like, in Mexico, there's this vibrant culture of, like, colorful, like, art. And, like, when I think of Spain, I think of, like, Gaudi, like, and stuff that I think of as being super artistic and creative. And those things existed the whole time, like, under an oppressive ruler.
Couldn't hold it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are people.
I mean,
like,
a lot of their. It seemed like a lot of their top, like, people that were, like, artists in the country got out of there because they, were being oppressed, or they knew that,
they went to Paris or whatever. Yeah.
Like Luis Buñuel, he.
Your other favorite guy.
Yeah, I do love Buñuel. Hey, this year turns out I've been discovering Spanish movies I really like. Anyway, but Buñuel, he, after, I forgot what movie it was, in the early 60s, Franco was like, this movie's fine. The Catholic Church approves of it, and then he saw it and it was like, this is not right. And then Buñuel exiled himself before anyone could arrest him.
Oh yeah.
And like Jess Franco is another like Spanish director I like, and he made a lot of moves in Germany because the censorship laws and under Franco were a bit much, and he liked to do like kind of like these low budget, weird, artsy, like horror / like sexy movies. And like it's just interesting, like what happened to Spain's movies during like nearly 40 or 50 years.
Yeah.
Oh, and the first Almodovar movie, I believe, translated to English, the title is Me Tim.
I just saw that on his Wikipedia. It was like, I'm like, what is this movie called?
I'm just gonna have
Me Tim.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to bleep out the title.
Meow, 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 meow.
Yeah, it's gonna be like, meow. What was the name of that movie? Oh, it was called Meow Tim.
Yeah, that's what the one house on Taj or Darkness said it was translated to. And she just married to a Spaniard at one point.
Films about Opus Dei? What? None is that. Matador has something to do with Opus Dei? I'm sorry, Wikipedia? I don't know what to do. Anyway.
There are some very strange sexual things in Talk to Her, too. All of them.
What do you mean? There's strange sexual things in...
There's strange sexual things in all of them.
The Skin I Live In, and...
Yeah.
And... Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Spencer, for picking this one.
Yeah, thank you for giving us an excuse to talk about this, because I think I probably wouldn't have ordinarily had the chance.
Oh, you're very welcome. And listeners, you should know, most of Almodovar movies are streaming right now.
Streaming for free.
Well, you have to pay for it.
Damn it.
There's a box set that's Region 2 of his early movies.
Oh, sure.
That I'm tempted to buy, but I gotta wait on that.
Yeah. What do you guys think is the safest to, like, if you were just starting?
to watch one of his movies?
Yeah.
This was my first one.
So this one?
I think
based off what I know as later stuff, maybe start with the later stuff if you're not as into like weird or like transgressive like movies.
I think Voltaire is probably the best one to start with because it's way less violent. Well, there is like violence and sexuality in that too.
Right.
But I feel like that one is much more like linear and understandable for a viewer too. Mm-hmm. Like that one has surprises the way all of his movies do, but and twists and reveals, but it's like they seem somehow more relatable than the rest of his movies do.
Yeah. Yeah.
To me.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. I think his more famous movies are like Woman on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown.
That's a good one.
And All About My Mother, but I haven't seen either of those myself. So.
All About My Mother is the one that he finally won an Oscar for, and he's been nominated a couple times.
Mm.
And he won Best Screenwriting Oscar.
He won before Spike Lee?
Yeah, before Spike Lee.
Ridiculous.
Those were the first ones I heard about a long time ago. Yeah. I think I was lucky and I saw a lot of cool movies growing up. But I had some friends in like early college, like when I was like 19, that were in a film class, and I just asked them for their syllabus, and I watched all the movies too. But All About My Mother was on it, and it was one that I didn't get to rent, so I never saw it, but I heard of him back then, and I was like, ooh, this guy, I should check out some of his movies sometime.
A little fun fact about Matador is that when it played in England, when it first came out, the movies that Diego is masturbating to are video nasties that were banned in England. Mm. And so technically they're showing banned movies in the beginning of it.
And that's why they're banned.
Oh my god.
Too many creepy men are jerking it to it. Anyways, let's wrap up here for now. I'm going to say the outro stuff because I don't have a piece of paper directly in front of me, and you guys think about I didn't think about how complicated a lesson would be from Matador.
Oh my gosh.
Hey,
Thank you so much, Spencer, for guesting with us and for bringing up this movie. And
oh, you're very welcome.
It was super fun.
Yeah, ever since Aaron got kidnapped by those children, we just don't, been trying to make it work. But anyways, yeah, I appreciate you jumping in there. Anyways, outro stuff. Hey, listener, if you want to hear me and Spencer talk about Spike Lee movies, we have a podcast called We Cut Heads, a Spike Lee podcast. And previously we had a podcast called High and Low, a Kurosawa podcast where we talked about Japanese movies. And the Spike Lee one is ongoing right now. You can check that out at where we have that on?
Podbean. Spotify, Twitter,
Facebook has it. We have a page on Facebook that you can like.
Yeah, I don't update it as much as I should, but
yeah, you update when there's a new episode at least.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically all I do with the Please Don't Send Me an Outer Space one. Anyways, if you want to write in a suggestion or you have any questions or you want to talk to somebody about, legal help, I don't know, we'll figure it out. You can write into pleasedon'tpodcast@gmail.com or you can message us on Facebook, facebook.com/PDSMiOS. Access to all of our episodes are at pdsmios.com. If you go there, you can click on a link on the right side of the page that says episodes, and that has all of the movies we've covered, any of the special episodes we've had. Someday I'm going to put episodes that we've guested on and stuff like that. I'm a very lazy man. I mean busy. I meant to say busy. Anyways, if you got a few bucks you want to send our way, we still have a Ko-Fi site to support us, ko-fi.com/PDSMiOS. Buy us a coffee, buy us a soda pop, that kind of thing. And, thanks to David Roy for our theme music, Jed Dowtry for our podcast logo.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you for listening, goofballs.
Thank you, friends.
Uh-huh. So, lesson from Matador, huh?
Oh, I guess I'll go first.
Okay.
Even if an older gentleman seems like a very masculine, like a sexy sex symbol, and he used to fight bulls, don't fall for his charms. He will kill you at some point.
I think the key to knowing whether or not somebody is somebody you should hang out with is if they ever show any emotion at all. Because this guy had one emotion, which was kind of like, I don't even know why I'm here. There's one part in the movie where he smiles, and
Nothing
I was like, what?
Really seems to excite him that much.
I think, that's the whole point.
Well, he's a masculine man. He doesn't show emotion.
He doesn't
Right.
have the thrill of the bullfight anymore. It's not there. He doesn't even know why.
He's listless.
Exactly.
Okay. My lesson for this movie is don't let the eclipse go to your head.
Oh. That's some
There's
good.
that part in the back of the car where he's like, oh, you've let the eclipse go to your head.
So the detective says that.
And they're talking about the suicide that they're gonna do during the eclipse.
Yeah, and he's like telling them what they're saying, and they're like way too into it. Like they're getting really turned on by what's happening.
Yeah, he's got Julia on one side, Eva on the other side, and they're all ready to go. And Angel doesn't know how to use anything that is attached to his body. Anyway.
And the detective's like, who are these people?
Yeah, like,
Yep.
God, I can't wait for this to be over. Get out of my car.
Almodovar also likes a car scene.
Oh, yeah,
I've
he does.
noticed that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think all 6 movies I've seen, they all end with a bunch of people getting in a car,
In a
going
car.
somewhere.
Road trip. Yeah. I love that
Yeah.
car.
Yeah,
People
Labyrinth,
being like, you're stupid.
Labyrinth of Passion has a great thing with that where they keep arriving at the same location. Well, 3 groups of people arrive at the same location, and someone there has to poop, and she can't hold it, and when the third group shows up, she poops her pants.
Oh my god.
Oh, and you see the poop. Like this is his
Great.
early kind of John Waters era. But it's like he really loved like crass humor and people getting in cars to end a movie.
Yep.
It's all based on his own experiences. People are pooping their pants all the time, left and right. Okay, so my lesson is that you should never trust your gardener because you give him an explicit instruction not to let somebody in the house, and you know what, that bastard, he's going to do that. Not to mention, I saw him earlier trying to get those mushrooms, and some of those things are poison. This guy's an idiot. Just, maybe you need a new gardener.
Oh, another lesson?
Hmm?
That's a very good one, because you never know what could happen if you can't trust the people that you tell your secrets to, or your, the rules
Oh,
of
the gardener's
house.
in on it, yeah.
But I was gonna say, there's somebody for everybody, because no matter how strange your obsession and fetish is, there's another person out there that's perfectly suited to you.
Yeah, and in worst case scenario, just like the other movie that we've talked about, you could just kidnap them, tie them up, and eventually they'll fall in love with you. Thanks, Almodovar. We'll see you in 2 weeks, folks. Thanks for listening. Bye.
One last thing.
No, Spencer, we're busy. Okay, go ahead.
One last thing.
All
A
right.
previous episode I was on, Mary Jane's Not a Virgin Anymore,
Yes?
that is getting a Blu-ray release from AGFA,
Uh-huh.
the American, is it Grindhouse film something?
I don't remember.
They're part of Alamo Drafthouse, but they're finally, Mary Jane's Not a Virgin Anymore is finally getting a good release. So if you're listening to this and haven't heard the episode, listen to it, and if you want to buy the movie, it comes out, by the time this comes out, it will probably be available. And I want people to know Sarah Jacobson's work is going to finally gain some more respect. It's a good thing. That's it.
Support indie artists.
Yeah.
Anyways. Next week, 2 weeks. See you then. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you, Spencer.